Yi Feng had just woken up, feeling groggy. He didn't know what was happening. Suddenly, a girl named Miss Lin Lan, who was in the same bed, screamed, demanding to know why he was in her room and if he had done anything to her. Yi Feng was equally confused because he had been battling against 3 overlords in the middle of the universe. He remembered a group of men trying to kill him. He wondered if he had been reborn in a human body on Earth. Now, he had just woken up in an unfamiliar bed with Miss Lin Lan, the most beautiful person in Jiangshi City and one of the top 10 entrepreneurs in the province. Just then, they heard footsteps outside, and Miss Lin Lan asked him to hide. She was worried about how they knew she was here, and if they found out, it could harm her company and upset her fiancé. It turned out that Yi Hu's men were on their way to the room where Miss Lin Lan and Yi Feng were. They wanted to take a picture of them together for sensational news. Yi Feng realized it was a trap because the body he was in had nothing to do with Miss Lin Lan. Both of them had lost consciousness after drinking some knockout drops and had been placed in the same bed. The plan was not only to ruin Miss Lin Lan's reputation but also to cause Yi Feng's current body to die in a humiliating way. Yi Feng couldn't help but wonder who would want to harm this body. Yi Hu's men were overheard talking about how they had carried out Master Hu's orders. It became clear to Yi Feng that Yi Hu had orchestrated everything. Suddenly, a red energy began to emanate from Yi Feng's body, enveloping the surroundings and moving towards the bushes around the building. Yi Hu's men burst into the room where Miss Lin Lan was, but they couldn't find Yi Feng, only Miss Lin Lan remained. The flowers in the room withered, and they searched around but couldn't locate Yi Feng. Outside the building, Yi Hu was with one of his men, praising him for the brilliant idea of getting Yi Feng drunk and placing him in the same room as Lin Lan instead of killing him. However, his phone rang, and it was journalist Zhang on the line. Zhang informed one of Hu's men that when they reached the room, they only found Miss Lin Lan. Hu couldn't believe it because he had locked Lin Lan and Yi Feng in the same room himself. Just then, Yi Feng appeared in front of him, addressing him by name, identifying him as a direct descendant of the Yi family, and asking if he had planned all of this. Yi Hu retorted, "So what if I planned it? Who are you to question me, you son of a bitch, dreaming of inheriting the Yi family?" He then attempted to attack Feng with a knife, but Feng swiftly dodged it and grabbed Hu by the neck. Hu struggled to breathe as the energy from Feng's body started taking over his own. Managing to break free, Hu immediately ran to his car and sped away with his men. Inside the car, Yi Hu was trembling with fear, and he noticed that the car's roof seemed unusual. With his powers, Yi Feng folded his hand, causing the car to explode. However, just before the explosion, Yi Hu managed to jump out of the car. He lay unconscious on the ground and realized that Yi Feng was not a human but a demon. Chapter 2. Yi Feng chose to spare Yi Hu's life for the moment but warned him not to cross his path again, emphasizing that doing so might lead to his demise. With that, Yi Feng departed but couldn't help but wonder about the state of the demon planet. Memories of his friend Huanger flooded his mind, remembering their battles against the demons. Now, reborn in this new body, he wondered if Huanger was safe, reassuring himself that she was strong and nothing would harm her. "Your brother will return as the Demon King once again, in the shortest amount of time," Feng said to himself. However, he realized that the body he inhabited was weak, and the planet he was on was teeming with living beings. Meanwhile, by the river bank of the city, a girl named Xiaoyi was fishing with her grandfather. She encouraged him not to overexert himself as he was aging. Curious, she inquired if the king of soldiers, Uncle Zhong, was also known as the sparring king within the special squad. Suddenly, there was an enemy attack, and it was Yi Feng. He effortlessly took on all the bodyguards who confronted him. Xiaoyi's male bodyguard questioned Feng about his identity and the reason for his attack. He attempted to kick Yi Feng, but Feng skillfully dodged and counterattacked, sending him to the ground. He was astonished that Yi Feng had blocked the attack without moving an inch. Determined, the 3 brothers decided to attack Feng simultaneously. Yi Feng easily defeated the 3 brothers and decided not to underestimate this new world. He chose to keep a low profile until he could gain more strength. When Xiaoyi's grandfather overheard Yi Feng mentioning that they should pay for the damage to his clothes, he realized that Yi Feng wasn't seeking revenge. He apologized for the misunderstanding and offered to cover the cost of the damaged clothes. He recognized that Yi Feng was not someone to be underestimated, given his formidable abilities, and he decided to establish a relationship with him. As he looked at the old man, he informed him that he didn't have much time left, as he was nearing the end of his life. Despite Xiao Zhong's attempt to intervene, the old man stopped him. Xiaoyi shouted at Yi Feng, asking why he had insulted her family. Yi Feng explained that he was merely giving them a warning, and the choice to believe him or not was entirely theirs. With that, Yi Feng left. After Yi Feng's departure, Xiao Yi's grandfather and Xiao Zhong engaged in a conversation. Suddenly, Xiao Yi drew their attention to the river, where all the fish were found dead. Yi Feng strolled down the street, noticing people's glances. He thought that they might not like his appearance, but he didn't expect such strong disapproval. Because his body was frail, he decided to use this identity to enroll in a human school and learn more about their world. While walking, he overheard someone behind him say, "Isn't that Yi Feng, who disappeared for 3 days after getting close to the most beautiful president?" The man, named Zhong Chang, was with a girl named Zhu Fei, who used to be Yi Feng's girlfriend before breaking up with him for Zhong Chang. Yi Feng had been very attached to her, which had caused him a lot of sadness. Zhong Chang taunted him, claiming that everyone was searching for him, including his own family, and his days were numbered. Yi Feng ignored him and tried to leave, but Zhong Chang got angry, grabbing Yi Feng's clothes. Yu Fei also intervened, demanding that Yi Feng kneel down and apologize to Zhong. Yi Feng simply smiled and retorted, "Do you really think this person is worth my anger?" Zhong responded, "You have a sharp tongue. Let me tell you, Yu Fei truly loves me. She cares about me deeply, and you're just a person no one wants, plain and simple." Feng didn't mind if he wasn't wanted by someone, as he believed that they were a poor match, referring to Yu Fei's statement that he would never find another girlfriend. Zhong was on the verge of throwing a punch when Xiaoyi stepped in, declaring that Yi Feng was her boyfriend and anyone who laid a hand on him would be considered an enemy of the Ball family. This revelation surprised Zhong, as he hadn't known that the #1 beauty of Jiang University, Ball Yi, was dating Yi Feng. Not wanting to go against the powerful Ball family, Zhong chose to back down. Yi Feng warned Zhong that if he valued his life, he should never bother him. Eventually, Yi Feng and Xiaoyi left the scene. Later, Xiaoyi asked Yi Feng how he planned to thank her for helping him in that situation. He told her that he had nothing to offer except his own self. Xiao wasn't pleased with this response, as she felt it was an inadequate way to treat someone who had saved him. Yi Feng remained serious and insisted that she had to pay for tarnishing his reputation and that if he didn't find a future wife due to what she had said. Their argument continued until he decided to leave the place. Xiaoyi was determined to uncover Yi Feng's true identity and all his secrets. As he walked into the building, he couldn't help but overhear people discussing him. This time, he had no intention of keeping a low profile. He decided to have a little fun with these folks. Upon entering the classroom, he found Zhong already waiting for him. Just then, his friend rushed in, urgently calling Yi Feng's name and telling him to follow right away. He warned that if Yi Feng didn't comply, he'd be in serious trouble because the Gong family had learned of his return and had brought people with them. Feng called him fatty and patted his shoulder while reassuring him to stay calm and sit down. His friend was quite taken aback by Yi Feng's response. Chapter 4. His friend warned Yi Feng that the Gong family would harm him if they saw him. Yi silenced his friend. He pondered how Yi Feng had become so strong. Suddenly, a group of men burst into the room, demanding to know which one of them was Yi Feng. One of the men, named Wu, swiftly pointed at Yi, identifying him. Zhong's plan was for Wu to confront Yi Feng so that the Ball family would no longer protect him, and then Zhong could deal with him later. Yi's friend attempted to intervene, but Yi Feng assured him not to worry and said that everything would be okay. He found himself face to face with one of the men, Wu, whom he insultingly referred to as trash. This further angered Wu, and he clenched his fists. A woman behind Wu threatened Yi Feng, saying, "Do you want your ears torn off to understand fear?" Wu then presented Yi Feng with 2 options. He could either kneel down and apologize, or he could crawl beneath Wu, addressing him as Lord Gong, just as others did for him. The consequence of refusing was that his arm and leg would be injured, leaving him handicapped. Wu asked Yi Feng to make a wise choice. In response, Yi Feng momentarily activated his intense gaze, and when he spoke, Wu was visibly frightened. However, Yi quickly returned to his normal self, leaving Wu to wonder if he had been hallucinating. Summoning his courage, Wu threatened Yi Feng, vowing to harm him. In a surprising turn of events, Yi Feng smiled, sat down, and calmly requested that Master Wu kneel. Suddenly, Wu and his men all knelt down, leaving everyone bewildered. Zhong questioned Wu about this while speaking, and Wu responded with a heavy punch to Zhong's cheek. Wu and his men then mercilessly beat Zhong from various angles. Yi's friend, whom he affectionately called Fatty, was astonished and questioned whether Yi Feng was still the same person he knew and whether he was human or something else. Yi Feng replied that he was neither a ghost nor a human but a demon. Zhong was leaving the class when the female teacher entered. Seeing that his face appeared rough, she inquired about what had happened to him. He told a lie, claiming that he had fallen. Meanwhile, when Yifeng saw her, he detected an unusual scent emanating from her body, along with violet blood and a sense of destiny. She possessed a special spiritual physique. If only Yifeng could obtain a drop of her blood, he could create a life-saving potion. As the teacher walked by him, Yifeng discreetly swatted her buttock. She shouted at him, demanding to know what was wrong. He quickly fabricated a story about a dangerous mosquito near her and claimed to have eliminated it. He was promptly kicked out of the class, but he had achieved his goal. He couldn't help but wonder who had brought a demonic mosquito into the human world, as it was typically found in the demonic realm. In the meantime, Fatty took Yifeng to a bar. He was crying about breaking up with his girlfriend because she had humiliated his brother, leading him to end their relationship. Fatty beckoned Yi to look, and there she was, Sister Rose, the city's most renowned bartender. Her signature cocktail, the Big Sister, cost a whopping 10k per glass. Fatty ordered 2 glasses. Upon seeing her, Yifeng told Sister Rose that she was in danger. Confused, she asked him what he meant. Yi explained that someone who intended to harm her was on their way to her doorstep. What do you plan to do about it? Feng asked her. Right then, the door opened, and the person entered. Sister Rose quickly asked if anyone could defeat the threat, promising them free drinks forever. A volunteer stepped forward, known as the undefeated tiger. He threw a punch, but the wolf poison dodged it and retaliated, defeating the undefeated tiger. Wolf poison then asked Sister Rose if there was anyone else willing to challenge him, warning that they'd meet the same fate as the defeated tiger lying on the floor. Wolf poison violently tossed the undefeated tiger around the table where Yifeng was seated. Yi asked him if he recognized who he was. I don't care who you are, Wolf poison retorted. In response, Yi activated his demonic eyes and took control of Wolf poison's hand, rendering it immobile. Yi then stood up and delivered a powerful punch to the floor. Wolf poison was astonished by Ye's strength. Determined to take Ye's life, Wolf poison lunged at him, but Yi swiftly turned and kicked him away. Despite Wolf poison's persistence, his efforts proved futile as he couldn't match Yifeng's power. Yi defeated him, and finally, Wolf poison admitted defeat, expressing his unwillingness to fight any longer. Yi demanded that Wolf poison provide the antidote for the poison he had administered to Sister Rose. Reluctantly, Wolf poison handed over the antidote. At that moment, Wolf poison's big brother arrived at the bar with his head bandaged. Wolf poison asked him why he was there. Upon seeing Yifeng, the man lowered his head and greeted Yifeng. He explained that he had come to the bar to find Yi because his old master, referring to Xiaoyi's grandpa, was in poor health. The old man's condition had been deteriorating recently. Yi informed the man that he had noticed a black spot on the old man's body, which was a symptom of a demonic mosquito bite. The man asked Yifeng if he could cure his old master. He acknowledged that his old master's fate was sealed, but since Miss Ball had assisted him, he felt compelled to help the old man. Yi instructed the man to return home, as he would prepare the necessary treatment. He asked the man to return in 3 days' time. The man expressed his gratitude to Mr. Yi and ordered Little Wolf to accompany Yi, telling him that his life depended on Yi's decisions. If he wanted him to live, he would live, and if he wanted him to die, he would die. Little Wolf knelt down to show his respect to his new master. However, Yi couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Little Wolf's inability to recognize him troubled him. He resolved to investigate this matter later, but for now, the most pressing concern was saving the old man's life. Yi pondered where he should go next when he spotted Miss Lin Lan approaching the bar. However, as she neared the bar, a car pulled up and forcibly took her inside. Despite her efforts to resist, she was overpowered. Yi made the quick decision to follow the car and see what would unfold. The car eventually stopped in a remote location. One of the men carried Miss Lin Lan inside and tossed her onto a bed. The man couldn't help but admire her beauty, considering her the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. He also revealed plans to kidnap her father. Suddenly, Yifeng reappeared, catching them by surprise. No need to wait for your turn, you can all meet your end together, Yifeng declared. The man hadn't expected Yifeng to return so swiftly. In a little while, we'll provide you with a free action movie, and you won't just be the audience, you'll be the main attraction, he taunted Yifeng. Yifeng appreciated their devious plan but wasn't about to be their victim. He ordered the third man to face him in combat. However, with one powerful punch, Yifeng knocked him out cold. The remaining men knelt down, pleading for forgiveness. Yifeng demanded to know who had ordered them to carry out their actions. One of them confessed that it was Yi Hu. Just then, Yi Feng rendered all of them unconscious. Yi Feng found a jade pendant. Using the energy from the heavens and a special magical stone, he created a space that could absorb energy from the universe. As he left the room, he spotted a tree that could absorb the vitality of heaven and earth. Nearby, an old tree with a lot of life could enhance its abilities. He held the magical stone and integrated it into a magical space system. With this system, the flowers and grass in the courtyard began to grow rapidly. Yi Feng felt great. Just then, Miss Lin Lan came out. Yi had forgotten about her. She seemed weak, struggling with the strong life energy in the area. She asked Yi Feng why he had left her behind. She opened Yi Feng's clothes, insisting that he should never leave her again. In his mind, Yi Feng felt uncomfortable and realized he needed to stop her. He gently pushed her away and attempted to remove the excess energy from her body. Placing his finger on her forehead, he managed to release some of the energy, but not all of it. She hugged him tightly, and then suddenly, she regained her senses, confused about her actions and seeing Yi Feng with her again. Yi Feng explained that he had saved her this time and she remembered when she was kidnapped. She asked him for clothes, and they decided to pretend nothing had happened afterwards. Yi got up to leave, and she asked him where he was going. Annoyed, Yi replied, "You're quite a handful. I'm getting you some clothes, of course." He returned with the clothes, tossed them to her, and asked her to put them on quickly. He turned away to give her privacy. Miss Lin Lan then asked if he could take her back to her home at Urban-Rural Junction. There was a broken-down car nearby that they could use, but Yi didn't have a driver's license. Miss Lin Lan asked Yi how the car had been driven there since he had no driver's license. She hopped into the car and motioned for Yi to join her. She started driving at a high speed, surprised that Yi wasn't afraid of speeding. However, they soon noticed another car following them closely, which eventually moved in front of them. Confused, Miss Lin Lan wondered who the person in the other car was. Yi warned her not to leave the car since she had no business with this person. Yi and Yi Hu, whose face was bandaged, got out of the car. However, something was different about Yi Hu this time. He seemed to possess some strange powers but hadn't fully mastered them. Yi Feng and Yi Hu engaged in a fight, with Yi Hu donning the Devil Star's Shura mask, leaving Yi Feng curious about how he had acquired it. Yi Hu unleashed a powerful force that pushed Yi Feng back, but he seemed unaware of the mask's true capabilities. Yi Feng gave him a final chance to reveal where he had obtained the mask and spared his life, but Yi Hu continued to attack. With the mask's power, he was able to exert twice the strength of the Shura soldiers. Miss Lin Lan came out of the car witnessing the fierce battle between Feng and Hu. She was curious to know what was happening between them. Feng, seeing Hu's next attack, knew it wasn't going to be a good one and decided to keep his distance. Hu attacked Feng again with a strong energy. Feng landed on the floor. "You're not worthy to bear the surname of Yi," Hu said to Feng. Hu's body was filled with power and strength, but he didn't know what he was wearing. The soldiers of Azura are the lowest form of cannon fodder within the demonic stars, and the mask of Azura is to prevent them from running away, making them to equip the mask before the battle while increasing their combat power. The mask can be taken off once they are dead or when they win the battle. Hu, standing before Yi, threatened to continue torturing him since he hadn't been crushed yet. He lunged forward, but Feng retaliated with a powerful energy blast that knocked Hu to the ground. Determined to kill Feng, Hu picked up a heavy rock and hurled it at him, but Feng managed to dodge it. They exchanged punches, but suddenly, Hu began to feel his power waning and couldn't understand what was happening. He asked Feng what he had done. Feng explained that he had allowed the Azura soldier's mask to corrode Hu to such an extent that nothing could save him now. To expedite the process, Feng attacked him with an even stronger energy. Hu writhed in pain on the ground. When Feng noticed that Hu's soul hadn't yet dissipated, he touched him and extracted his soul. As the commotion died down, Miss Lin Lan inquired, "Is it over?" to Yi Feng. Miss Lin Man inquired about Yi Feng's well-being, expressing concern. She remarked on the apparent lack of humanity in the situation and calmly stated that Yi Hu deserved consequences for attempting to harm them. Yi Feng inquired about where he could find information for research, and she suggested the city's largest library, located in Jiang City. Curious about Yi Feng's abilities, Miss Lin Man asked how he had acquired them, but he remained silent. She assured him it was fine and he exited the car. Yi Feng asked her to contact him if she ever faced trouble, and she was surprised to find his contact saved in her phone. As Yi Feng walked to the library, he pondered the strange familiarity of this world, recognizing the Azura mask, Poison Wolf, and even the sudden appearance of the demonic mosquito from his planet. He felt a need to conduct research to unravel the mysteries of this world. Although the library's records seemed ordinary, Yifeng couldn't shake a sense of unease. While he was seated in the library, a girl approached him from behind, covering his eyes and playfully asking him to identify her. Yifeng quickly turned around. The girl introduced herself as Shi, his childhood friend, and expressed disappointment that he hadn't sought her out in the past few days. She had searched for him in the library and invited him to her birthday party, which was organized by a friend. Yifeng promised to attend. Yifeng and Shi arrived at the venue together, where they were warmly greeted by the event organizer. And she was informed that her friend, who had booked the hotel, was waiting for her in room 19. Upon entering the room, Shi's friend, Xiaoyu, enthusiastically embraced her, expressing their anticipation for her arrival. It was revealed that young master who would be covering the expenses for the evening, and Xiaoyu suggested that she should thank him for his generosity. Young master who presented Shi with a drink, declaring that the star of the event had arrived. Shi, not accustomed to alcohol, hesitated. However, Yifeng, already aware that the drink contained sleeping pills, took it and consumed it himself. To prevent any disturbance, he decided to have a private conversation with young master Hu outside. Yifeng confronted young master Hu, questioning his intentions with Shi and inquiring about who had sent him. Young master Hu revealed that, now that Yifeng had consumed the drugged drink, he shouldn't expect to leave the premises alive. Yifeng made it clear that he wouldn't let young master Hu go unless he disclosed the identity of the person who had ordered this. Under the pressure, young master Hu admitted that young master Gong Yunfei had instructed him to deliver a message to him. At this point, an eerie energy emanated from Yifeng, terrifying young master Hu to the point of him bending down. Yifeng instructed him to convey a message to Gong that he, Yifeng, would seek him out once he had settled his personal matters. Yifeng had a change of heart and requested that young master Hu take him to meet Gong Yunfei. However, young master Hu explained that he didn't know Gong Yunfei's whereabouts, as Gong usually contacted him with the meeting location. Typically, they met at an abandoned steel factory. Yifeng was determined to meet this person and asked young master Hu to take him there. He was eager to uncover the mystery. Yifeng and Shi bid each other farewell. During the period when the Yi family had disowned Feng, Shi and her family had been his source of support. Yifeng believed there shouldn't be an issue with reconnecting with his childhood friend. He couldn't help but notice the striking resemblance between Shi and someone he knew as Feng. He decided to investigate her background when he had the chance. While Yifeng was in conversation with young master Hu, he received a text from an unknown number, indicating that Fatty had gone missing. Yifeng immediately recognized the message as coming from Poison Wolf. When they arrived at the abandoned factory, young master Hu decided not to follow Yifeng any further. As he was about to leave, Yifeng casually asked him if he was missing something, and it turned out to be young master Hu's phone, which Yifeng had somehow discreetly taken. Yifeng promptly used the phone to call Gong Yunfei, suspecting him as the kidnapper of Fei Qing. He proposed a meeting that night, but Gong Yunfei refused and abruptly hung up the call. Yifeng couldn't help but think that perhaps all the events of the day had been orchestrated by Gong Yunfei. Meanwhile, Fei Qing was tied to a stand and subjected to a beating. He boldly challenged his assailant, warning that if they intended to kill Yifeng, they were only sealing their own fate. Gong Yunfei had sent a man named Sir Six-Finger Snake to handle Yifeng, who had an unsettling presence. Just then, Yifeng burst through the door, expressing his disappointment that Yunfei was not present, but he demanded information on Yunfei's whereabouts. Fei Qing shouted a warning to Yifeng, as he couldn't locate the snake guy. Unknown to Yifeng, the snake guy was hiding on the roof, preparing to attack. He transformed into a large snake and lunged at Yifeng, who agilely evaded the attack. In retaliation, Yifeng unleashed a powerful strike, provoking the snake guy's anger, leading him to call upon the deracinating King Cobra. The battle grew monotonous to Yifeng, and he decided to introduce a new element into the fight. He summoned his spirit, which had developed and gained wisdom on its own after absorbing a drop of blood from Yang Yi. Although it couldn't be used for refining pills, having a helping hand in battle was advantageous. The snake guy, unfazed, challenged Yifeng by releasing his own deracinating King Cobra to confront Yifeng's spirit cat. The two fierce creatures engaged in a heated confrontation. However, Yifeng wasn't content to just watch. He launched an attack against the snake guy, leaving him astonished at how Yifeng could simultaneously control the spirit cat. Yifeng cryptically explained that the snake guy wouldn't understand, as his level was too low. This response left the snake guy baffled, as he had never encountered someone like Yifeng within the Deviant Alliance. The snake guy inquired about Yifeng's origin or sect, to which Yifeng cryptically responded that he hailed from hell. In response, the snake guy threatened to send him back to hell and unleashed his Cobra King to attack Yifeng. However, Yifeng remained unmoved and swiftly defeated the cobra. Mocking his opponent, Yifeng commented on the snake guy's apparent fear and suggested he might want to run away. This further incited the snake guy's anger, prompting him to summon 2 scarlet pythons this time. The pythons charged at Yifeng and seemingly occupied the spot where he stood. Those present, including Fei Qing, feared that the pythons had devoured Yifeng and began shouting his name. To everyone's shock, a demonic baby suddenly appeared at the site where Yifeng had been standing, and Yifeng reappeared, having defeated the scarlet pythons. The snake guy, astounded by this display, questioned Yifeng about his true nature. In response, Yifeng activated his demonic eyes and ominously declared, "Now, let me take you to my turf. Welcome to hell." The snake guy cried out to Yifeng, pleading for his life and vowing to comply with any request. He desperately implored Feng not to end his life, expressing a profound fear of death. Yifeng responded, proposing that he could spare the man if he agreed to become a living bomb. At that moment, Yifeng extended his finger to the man's forehead, siphoning energy from his body. This left the snake guy bewildered, as he experienced a bizarre sensation within his own body. Yifeng wasted no time, rushing over to where Fei Qing was bound, releasing him, and assuring him that he would tend to his injuries later. Meanwhile, the individual who had been assaulting Fei while he was tied up felt sheer terror as Yifeng approached. With a mischievous grin, Yifeng mentioned that he had a special surprise for Gong Yunfei's brother. He pried the assailant's mouth open and transferred the energy he had extracted from the snake guy body into the man's own. It was a unique gift that Yifeng had prepared for Gong Yunfei. Yifeng then informed the man that he was free to go. With that, he dispersed. In the meantime, Yifeng extended his apologies to Fei Qing for the ordeal he had endured due to their encounter. "I knew you'd come to my rescue," Qing reassured Feng, a grateful smile on his face. They both rose and made their way out of the area. However, Fei Qing couldn't shake off his worry about releasing Gong's men, fearing they might return with even more formidable reinforcements. Yifeng remained silent. Meanwhile, the man Yifeng prepared a gift inside his body was already inside the house, as he repeatedly muttered, "I am a return gift to my big brother." Observing this odd behavior, some maids suspected that he had indulged in alcohol and perhaps cavorted with women. This man's name was Gong Wu, and he persisted with his peculiar mantra until he reached the room where Gong Yunfei was enjoying a drink. Perplexed, Gong Yunfei inquired about the mission's outcome. The only response he received was the same cryptic phrase, "I am a return gift to my big brother." Gong Yunfei pressed further, asking him to clarify what he meant by this cryptic statement. Gong Yunfei approached Gong Wu, questioning why he was alone and why the six-fingered snake wasn't with him. Gong Wu, with bloodshot eyes, stared at Gong Yun and reiterated, "I am a return gift to my brother." Gong Yunfei, realizing something was seriously wrong, kicked Gong Wu away and demanded to know what dangerous entity he had brought back with him. At that moment, Gong Wu began to show signs of imminent explosion, prompting Gong Yun to react swiftly. He leaped through the nearest window just before Gong Wu detonated like a bomb. Breathing heavily and shaken by the close call, Gong Yunfei muttered to himself, "Yifeng, I won't let you get away with this." Yifeng couldn't help but feel suspicious about why Yang Ying had invited him to dine with her. He sensed an opportunity to gather information on the Gong family, so he decided to stay vigilant. With these thoughts in his mind, he entered the building. Upon entering, Yang Ying introduced him to her friend, whose name was Qing Shui. She wished to express her gratitude and ask Yifeng some questions. As they sat down, both women's unwavering gazes made him feel uncomfortable. "Hey, beauties," Yifeng finally broke the silence. "You girls have been staring at me this whole time, is something wrong?" Yang Ying spoke up, explaining that ever since her best friend had learned that Yifeng had helped her defeat the demonic mosquito, she had been fascinated by the terrifying creature. Thus, she wanted to take him out to eat. Yang's friend, seated beside her, introduced herself as a doctor and the manager of the largest private healthcare institution in Zheng City. She mentioned that the news about the demonic mosquito had not yet been leaked to the public and inquired about how he had come to know about it. Yifeng remained silent as Qing Shui expressed her suspicion about the sudden appearance of the demonic mosquito. Without a word, Yifeng rose from his seat and announced, "This is none of my business anymore. Thank you both for your generous luncheon. I have something else I need to take care of. I will take my leave." With that, he headed for the exit. As he made his way outside, he was met by a group of men who were waiting for him. One of them, a man named Bai Zhenghua from the Bai family, bowled and greeted him. He pleaded with Yi Feng to save his father. Xing Shui, following him, shouted that he had no background, but Yi Feng reassured him that they would go together because his father couldn't wait any longer. Zhenghua took the lead. Xing Shui didn't want Yi Feng to meddle in the matter and asked him to demonstrate his treatment process. She offered to become his student if he succeeded. Yi Feng replied, "Do whatever you want, as long as Mr. Bai is okay with it." With that, he was prepared to address the situation at hand. From a distance, an observer kept a close eye on Yi Feng and the Bai family. This individual decided to make a phone call, informing Gong Yunfei that Yi Feng had just left with the Bai family. In a tense conversation, Yunfei instructed Yun to follow them and wait for the right moment. He was fueled by anger and determination, intent on confronting and potentially harming Yi Feng. As Yi Feng and the others exited the car and walked towards the house, Xing Shui expressed her doubts. She voiced her concern, saying, "It's not that I don't believe you, but you claim to be able to treat cases like this when all the doctors have tried and failed. As a professional doctor and Mr. Bai's private physician, I won't allow you to use him as an experiment." In response, Yi Feng reassured her that he could cure him. Once inside, the ailing man thanked Yi Feng for coming. Yi Feng summoned the cat spirit, which perched on his shoulder. He advised everyone not to be nervous, explaining that the cat spirit held the key to saving Mr. Bai. He requested a bowl, which was promptly brought to him. The spirit cat sniffed inside the bowl, and Yi Feng bit the cat, allowing a few drops of blood to flow into the bowl. He then handed the bowl to Mr. Bai and assured him that drinking it would resolve his condition. Bai Zhenghua cautioned Yi Feng to be cautious of the schemes of the Gong family. Yi Feng inquired about the Gong family's power and why they were afraid of them. Xing Shui revealed that the Gong family, on its own, wasn't exceptionally powerful. It was the Lang family, Jiannan, who held the real influence behind them. Master Ball had already risen from his slumber, only to find himself ensnared by the Gong family's plot. In a world rife with challenges, Yi Feng battled numerous adversaries, and it was evident that the demonic mosquito was an otherworldly threat. Xing Shui struggled to grasp Yi's cryptic reference to another realm, but he cautioned her against delving deeper, emphasizing the danger posed by the Gong family. With his parting words, Yi made it clear that he was taking his leave. Xiaoyi expressed his gratitude to Yi for rescuing his grandfather and peered out the window, observing a fleet of cars belonging to the Gong family, all waiting for Yi's emergence. Yi Feng humbly requested a car, as a gesture from the Gong family for saving Xiaoyi's grandparent. Master Ball instructed Bai to hand over the Yin Lin to Yi Feng, and Xiao was to accompany him. Outside, a group of eager men awaited Yi Feng's exit. This time, Gong Yunfei dispatched a formidable adversary to face Feng, who, upon not finding him, bellowed Zhang's name, demanding that they produce Feng or suffer consequences. This imposing figure was known as Gue Shou. Yi Feng emerged from the car he had been driving, and the imposing figure attempted to halt him, realizing that Gong Yunfei had warned him about this formidable adversary with exceptional power. In response, Yi Feng coolly informed the big guy that if he wanted to confront him, he'd have to catch him first. With that, Yi sped away in the car, leaving Gue Shou to command his men to give chase. However, Yi Feng had a different plan. He suddenly halted the car in the middle of the road, recognizing the strange and overwhelming abilities of his pursuer. He retreated to the shelter of a nearby tree, where he began to meditate. Yi Feng summoned the demonic breaking form to confront the pursuing men. When they reached the location where Yi Feng's car had stopped, they halted and initiated a thorough search for their elusive quarry. It was Gue Shou who finally discovered him, prompting him to assemble the rest of the group. Much to their surprise, the Yi Feng they had found was merely an illusion. With a mischievous smile, he welcomed his captors to his playground, humorously referring to it as hell. Gue Shou called out for Yi Feng to reveal himself, and this time, the genuine Yi Feng emerged. The big guy then disclosed that Gong Yunfei had not sent him alone, suggesting that more challenges awaited Yi Feng. As the tension thickened, Yi Feng confronted the beast, remarking, "Still trying to sneak up on me in my territory, huh?" However, the creature that accompanied the big guy managed to grasp Yi Feng, maintaining a vice-like grip on him. In a hushed tone, the creature asked him why he was going against Yunfei and proceeded to suck his blood. Yi Feng, aware of the dire situation, regretted not taking action against the creature sooner. The big guy capitalized on the distraction and delivered a powerful strike, sending Yi Feng crashing to the ground. As the beast remained perched on the big guy's shoulder. Astonishingly, the beast punched a hole in Yi Feng's chest, and they thought he was on the brink of death, sprawled on the ground. It appeared that Yi Feng's life was hanging by a thread, and the big guy contemplated unleashing his formidable powers, although they proceeded with caution, knowing that he was the one who had vanquished the formidable six-finger snake. With a final, powerful surge of energy, the big guy attempted to obliterate Yifeng completely. However, his efforts seemed to portray him as nothing more than an F-level amateur, and the creature accompanying him took a moment to taunt him. It seems like he is just an F-leveled amateur at best. He should be happy that both of us E-leveled experts were the ones that killed him. As they approached the seemingly lifeless Yifeng, a sudden twist of events unfolded. To their astonishment, Yifeng, whom they believed to be deceased, launched a surprise attack from behind, striking down Kuei Feng, the beast. The big guy, incredulous, questioned, "How is that possible? You received a punch from me right on your chest. Even an expert cannot endure a punch from me." Yifeng, having figured out the secret to the big guy's ability, which revolved around vibrations, remained undaunted. The big guy was left bewildered, wondering who this mysterious adversary was, as a gaping hole in his chest proved insufficient to defeat him. Yifeng unleashed a demonic hunting scythe, determined to bring an end to the big guy's life, reassuring him that his time was up. Yifeng had already reached a level where he could easily overpower both his adversaries, as the beast and the big fellow were significantly weakened. In a gesture of mercy, Yifeng offered them a choice: he would spare one of them. The big man, however, rejected this opportunity. Despite channeling all his remaining energy in a futile attack against Yifeng, it had no effect on his formidable opponent. Yifeng swiftly retaliated, remarking, "It seems you've chosen a fate for both of you." In the face of this dire situation, the big man began to cough, and then Kuei Feng stepped forward, deciding to sacrifice himself to save one of them. In the end, Yifeng emerged victorious over both of his opponents, though he found it somewhat surprising that they were as weak as they proved to be. Returning to the nearby tree, he harnessed and manipulated the surrounding energy. Yifeng explained that the premature activation of his formation was triggered by the two adversaries, forcing him to expend all the energy available in the vicinity. The trees in the area had withered away completely. Considering the strength demonstrated by those two adversaries, Yifeng should have been at least of grade A caliber. However, he remained cautious, recognizing the need to continue amassing his power. "I must keep building my strength," he muttered to himself. As he contemplated his progress, the spirit blood beast approached him. Yifeng was pleasantly surprised by how rapidly it had grown. Pondering the potential alliances Gong Yunfei might have, Yifeng began to wonder if these alliances could all eventually fall under his dominion. Realizing the importance of aligning himself with the Balls family, who could serve as crucial allies in his quest to confront Gong Yunfei, Yifeng spoke to himself with determination. "Mr. Gong, I'm coming for you soon." Xing Shua ventured into the area where the confrontation between Yifeng and the formidable duo, the big guy and Kuei Feng, had taken place. Her keen observations did not go unnoticed, as she realized that two grade E experts had inexplicably vanished. Deeply concerned, she understood the need to report this alarming development to the headquarters. This individual, Yifeng, might be even more dangerous than we had initially anticipated, she murmured to herself as she collected water samples to aid in identifying this enigmatic figure. Meanwhile, in the sub-department of the clan, a liaison officer named Chuli was grappling with the perplexing situation of two grade E experts being defeated by a mere human. Inside his office, Yunfei, visibly agitated over the loss of his two subordinates, vented his frustrations. Chuli, recognizing the delicate balance of power within the clan, reminded Yunfei of his place. "You may be connected by blood to the family, but within the clan, your authority is limited," Chuli cautioned him. It was a rare instance of someone asserting the clan's authority in many years. Yunfei was left with a stern warning that he must improve his performance or face dire consequences. Chuli assured Yunfei that he was there to resolve the issue at hand. Despite the ongoing clan battles and the challenge of locating two missing grade E experts, Chuli remained undeterred. He insisted on arranging for another expert from the clan. Yunfei, however, explained that they were unable to deploy another expert at the moment. Chuli proposed the idea of using a grade D expert, believing that it was the opportune moment for them to step up to the challenge. Yifeng approached the Balls family seeking refuge, explaining that his own residence had been destroyed. However, his arrival didn't sit well with Xiao, who was furious with him for taking a $2 million car and failing to return it. She confronted him with her anger, but Feng attempted to defuse the situation and reminded her of his past deed in saving her grandpa's life. Xiao, after calming down, inquired about his intentions. Feng reiterated that he needed a place to stay since his house was no longer available. Touched by his predicament, she decided to show him some compassion and instructed him to follow her. Seated with Qing Shua, Feng found himself subjected to a barrage of questions aimed at ensuring he posed no threat to their family. Both parties were prepared to answer questions. Feng took the initiative, asking what this place was and why it harbored demonic mosquitoes and individuals from a previous universe. It was at this moment that Qing Shua began to suspect that Feng was not from their world. He proceeded to reveal his origin, declaring himself as the King of Hell. Yunfei ventured to the scorched remains of the building, grateful that the safe he had hidden there had survived the inferno. His sole desire was to witness Yifeng's humiliation and pitiful demise. Upon opening the safe, he was startled by a voice that emanated from behind him. It was a lady, who questioned why the eldest son of Gong had ventured out alone with something like that. Yunfei's rage was reignited, and he declared that Yifeng must meet his end. The lady swiftly confiscated the container holding the demonic mosquito, as Yunfei, unskilled in the ways of power, could do nothing to stop her. Incensed, Yunfei attempted to attack her, but she effortlessly evaded his every move. With a taunting smirk, she remarked, "The Lang family may be powerful, but unfortunately, that won't help you, for you're nothing but a piece of trash." Determined to prove himself and potentially earn a promotion from the Deviant Alliance, Yunfei persisted, but the lady remarked that he lacked the necessary skills, jesting that his name should be Gong rather than Lang. Although he yearned to eliminate her, he ultimately decided against it and ceased his futile assault. Her name was Sunner, and just when she thought the battle was concluded, she was caught off guard by a surprise attack from behind that sent her reeling. Before she could vanish, Yun assured her that one day he would eliminate them all, leaving no trace of their bodies behind. Meanwhile, Yifeng was in his room, elated that he had successfully summoned his beast weapon. Absorbing life energy had put him in peak condition, yet he was still eager to find a way to gather information about the unfamiliar world he found himself in. Just then, a voice from outside inquired if he was inside. Swiftly, he stowed his weapon. It was Sunner who had come to visit him, bearing the demonic mosquito, recognizing that he possessed the knowledge to care for it. Feng was taken aback by her unexpected gesture. On the other hand, Ferocious Wolf had been assigned a crucial mission that required completion before his return. Yifeng asked her where she got the demonic mosquito. She said she got it from Gong's eldest son, Yunfei. When Feng asked who Yunfei was, she called Feng her king and reassured him that they weren't enemies. Feng wanted to know more about her, and she looked forward to their next meeting before disappearing. Feng disliked people who acted mysteriously. Meanwhile, Feng examined the demonic mosquito in a container with a heart-sustaining array. It seemed familiar, but he couldn't recall where he'd seen it. He received a phone call and found a person in the car who also came from Feng's world. Feng asked about their presence and the demonic mosquitoes. The person explained that there was an explosion in the demonic world, and he woke up here. He remembered seeing a huge energy ball before losing consciousness during the explosion. Yifeng arrived at the location where Yunfei had called him to meet, only to find that Yun had kidnapped Lin Feng. Yifeng questioned Yun's actions, asking if he ever got tired of causing trouble. In response, Yun warned Yi to stop worrying about the Yi family, as Yi had crossed a line by getting involved with his fiancée. Unconcerned about the Yi family's well-being, Feng pressed Yun to reveal where he had obtained the demonic planet mask. Yun retorted that he would only share that information with Yi in the afterlife, launching an attack at Feng. Swiftly, Feng dodged the attack and declared that it was Yun who would experience his own version of hell. As Yun continued to attack, Feng adeptly evaded each blow. While Yifeng continued to battle Yunfei, a man in a suit named Chuli suddenly appeared. Yifeng felt an eerie vibe from him and knew he needed to deal with Yun and rescue Lin Feng promptly. Yifeng decided to launch an attack on Chuli, but Lin Feng cautioned him to be careful. In a surprising turn of events, Chuli effortlessly grabbed hold of Yifeng and threw him to the ground. Dazed and battered, Yifeng questioned why someone dressed so formally was resorting to such violence, wondering about the actions of the Deviant Alliance. Yunfei, seeing how Chuli had incapacitated Yifeng, called for his torment until death. However, Chuli insisted on waiting for a D-ranked expert to arrive. Yunfei disagreed, believing that the two of them could handle Yifeng. He charged forward, but he encountered a massive, baby-like figure that grabbed his leg. Fortunately, Yunfei managed to destroy the colossal infant. Before they could react, Yifeng had already made his escape with Miss Lin Feng. Feng took Lin Feng to a safe location, knowing he had to return and confront the people he left behind. Before she could say a word, Feng vanished from sight. Feng's friend from their world arrived at the area, holding the demonic mosquito. Yunfei was astonished by how he had obtained it and plotted to take it back. Feng's friend couldn't fathom how individuals of their low rank could possess such a valuable item, far superior to the demonic mosquito. He shattered the container and ingested it, declaring, "I'll make sure to have some fun with you guys until my boss returns." Yi Feng's friend felt the immense power coursing through him after consumption. "It's incredible. Who would have expected such incredible treasures in this place?" Gong Yun, undaunted, taunted his adversary to face him. Yun Fei and Shu Li launched a joint assault, but their opponents skillfully parried their attacks. Yi Feng's friend retaliated with a powerful strike that sent them sprawling to the ground. Shu Li's left hand sustained damage, and Yun Fei urged him to endure it. In his agony, Shu Li decided to sever his damaged hand, only to witness it regrow anew. He then gave some of his power to Yun Fei for their next offensive. Together, they launched another attack, resulting in a violent explosion and the emergence of Yi Feng. "Young Master Gong," Yi Feng remarked, "must you go to such lengths just to save face?" Yun Fei confronted him, stating that he could have kept the Yi surname but chose to abandon it. As he channeled his energy towards Feng, he emphasized the importance of family name in this world's ruthless jungle. "You are the most reviled and sought-after individual in my city," Yun Fei shouted, his anger palpable. In his thoughts, Feng suspected that Yun Fei had been against him from the outset and might have tampered with his surname. "On the Demon Star, I climbed my way to becoming the Demon King all on my own," Feng mused to himself. "How could a mere human from the Yi family tempt me?" Despite Yun Fei's relentless attacks, Feng remained impervious and ultimately defeated him. With Yun Fei lying on the floor, Feng placed his weapon above him. Yun Fei declared that Feng wouldn't dare to kill him, to which Feng retorted, "Why wouldn't I?" He revealed his ascent to the position of the Demon King, disregarding the threats of others. "In my previous life, I reigned as the Demon King of the Demon Star, and now I remain the strongest in the world," Feng declared as he raised his formidable weapon, poised to end Yun Fei's life. Gong Yun Fei's life came to an end as he lay motionless on the ground. Feng's friend informed Shu Li, the survivor of the attack, that he didn't shed a single tear for Gong Yun Fei. Feng declared that this was the end of it, and if the organization still considered him their enemy, he had no choice but to confront them to the bitter end. The Lung family would undoubtedly be greatly disturbed by these events. The entire city of Jian would soon be awash in bloodshed, and even if you were affiliated with the Yi family, Shu Li warned, they wouldn't spare you. Shu Li was joined by his comrade, Xiuzhou, and they quickly made their escape. Poison Wolf contemplated pursuing them, but Feng persuaded him to let them go. Poison Wolf was concerned that if news of this incident got out, it could spell trouble for him. Yi Feng's ambition was to set foot in the starry sky and become the supreme being in the universe. He questioned how this planet could possibly restrain him. "If this small city of Jiang tries to hinder me, what kind of demon king am I?" Feng pondered to himself. Poison Wolf assured him that he would undoubtedly succeed. Yi Feng ordered him to leave and emphasized that it was his duty to protect the people around him. Considering Poison Wolf's combat skills were only at grade C, Yi Feng knew the consequences if a situation like today were to occur again. Poison Wolf vowed to protect them, even if it meant sacrificing his life. As Chu Li and Xiuzhou distanced themselves, Chu Li questioned how the Lang family would handle the situation. Zhao explained that the Lang family wouldn't escalate the matter just because of this incident, and the Bal's family in Jiang City was also in agreement with Yifeng's actions. Zhao further elaborated that the Lang family wouldn't take any significant actions until the ghost situation had been resolved, especially since many people at the banquet weren't affiliated with their organization. Lan Han Shuang, Yun Fei's mother, arrived at the meeting. She welcomed everyone to the celebration banquet and began to address the group. She mentioned her long-standing connection with the Ghost Gate and announced something on behalf of the organization Ancestors Association. Chu Li wondered about the Lang family's intentions, while Zhao pondered what plans she could have, especially considering that even the ancestors had already moved out. "The Ghost Gate formally requested peace from our organization, and the Ancestral Council has decided on a temporary truce. Everyone can take a break. However, there's a matter that my family, the Gong family, must personally address. I seek assistance in avenging my son's murderer. The Ancestral Council will grant one wish to those who help, whether they are part of our organization or not. This is my request to all of you," she declared to the gathering. Meanwhile, Yi Feng was engaged in a conversation with his friend. His friend decided to join him, regardless of whether Yi Feng was the reincarnation of a demon king or star from Jian University. Feng entrusted the management of resources to his friend. Suddenly, a messenger rushed in, informing Feng that the Bal's family had an urgent matter and wished to speak with him. Feng suspected that a representative from the Lang family would be arriving soon. Yi Feng met with Xiao upon his arrival. She expressed her frustration, stating that she had been overseeing the construction of his house for days, and he hadn't even greeted her. Feng dismissively told her to stop with the pointless antics, as they all depended on him, considering he was the Demon King.